Welcome back. In the last episode, I thanked Raquel for doing Instagram, but she does so much more than that. She does Instagram, she does shorts, she does all unbelievable documentaries and podcasts and writes the questions and filters the questions. Basically, this should be called the Raquel Show because she's just unbelievable. I don't even know why I'm sitting. It's just, you know what?
Get up.
Welcome to another episode of Rabbi in the Hot Seat, where we delve into all the questions that you have on your mind. We give simple, honest, open answers. You might not like all my answers, but that's okay. You don't need to. Just keep writing your questions. We can have a debate about these things. Let's go.
Many Christians know the Bible backwards and forwards. Most Muslims memorize the Quran. Why don't Jews study the Bible or even know it off by heart?
Well, the truth is many Jews do know the Torah very, very in a strong way, but we actually believe that knowing it off by heart isn't necessarily the essence of what it is, because what the purpose of the Torah is knowing what it's asking you, is knowing what it's creating within you, is how is it making me a better, healthier, kinder, more conscious person. It's what mitzvahs do I have to do. So just learning it all Baal Peh, learning it all off by heart, isn't really doing that. There are better ways to learn Torah and better ways to spend our time. And in fact, I think many Christians who know it off by heart so they could debate Jews at the time. So that's, in fact, the verses of the Torah, I don't know if you know this, were made up by Christians so that they could debate. We didn't make up the verses. Some people say there's an idea of walking through the streets saying words of Torah off by heart, but that's not the whole Torah. You say one or two pasukim. For example, I often walk around saying, Atem hadvekim b'Hashem Elokechem chaim kulchem hayom. Those of you who have a true, intimate, personal relationship with God, those are the ones who are really called alive. Life is defined by connection to God. So I often walk around saying, Atem hadvekim b'Hashem Elokechem chaim kulchem hayom. But I don't need to reel off the whole Torah because that's not doing what it's meant to do. Even the repetition of a verse is actually just getting an idea into my mind of God consciousness and being present with God. Although some people say because Talmud Torah keneged kulam, learning Torah is the greatest thing, just knowing Mishnayot, for example, off by heart and saying it in the street, because your mind's always going to be doing something. So you're going to be thinking about some random person or things you're not meant to be thinking about, so at least be thinking about Torah. So just thinking the words of Torah is considered the mitzvah of learning Torah. So why not fill your mind with Torah thoughts?
Do Jews believe in ghosts?
Ooh. We believe in spirits, yes. We believe that the soul can get stuck somewhere between earth and heaven when it goes back up. But in general, we're not really into ghosts kind of walking around scaring people. And although we have had stories of houses being haunted by spirits and things like this, and holy rabbis being able to come and, exorcisms. But once again, I just want to tell you guys, I love you guys and I love your questions, hand them in. But things like aliens and ghosts and stuff like that is not actually so relevant to our everyday life, you know? It's not going to make you a happier person, a better person, a kinder person, a nicer person, probably not even a more interesting person. So Judaism is very focused on how I can become the greatest person I can become in this world. So ghosts, not so relevant, I'm afraid. We actually do have this concept where a person who has passed away, a soul who's passed away, can come down to actually guide people, can come in dreams. We also have this idea that Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, never really died. He went to heaven in his body and he comes to every bris and he visits maybe on Pesach. We open the door for him. But these are very out there specific cases and not that relevant to our everyday.
Is Moshiach really a person, or could he maybe just be a concept?
Jewish wisdom teaches that yes, indeed, Moshiach will be a physical human being, a person who comes and is a leader, a king of the Jewish nation, and yes, also a concept, this idea of enlightenment and this idea of revelation of godliness in the world. Many people think that, you know, when Moshiach comes, I'm looking forward to Moshiach so much because then there'll be no suffering and abuse and health issues, and that's cute and it's true, but really Moshiach heralds an era of palpable and revealed godliness in the world. And that's what we're really looking forward to with Moshiach. So it's both the concept of higher consciousness and God consciousness, but it is led by an actual real human called Moshiach, which I think Raquel might be Moshiach.
Rabbi, what was your favorite book growing up?
Robin Hood. I like Robin Hood a lot, and I just read it to one of my children recently again. I like the Willard Price books. Willard Price wrote books about nature and these African adventure. And these two boys, and I think they were 14 and 16 years old, their dad owned a zoo, and they had to go and collect animals from all over the world. Amazing. They got whale adventure, African adventure, tiger adventure. They were amazing books.
I am bullied in school every day. How does Judaism suggest I handle this?
So Judaism teaches that there are really three positive responses to any challenging situation. The first one is to try and change the situation. So for in this case, if you're being bullied, try and change that. That means talk to the bully to make sure that they don't do that anymore. It maybe means talk to the teachers or talk to your parents. Just try and change the situation. That's the first thing. The second thing is leave. If you can't change the situation, you can leave the situation. You can leave the school. So if you've got a job, the boss you don't like, so try and change the boss. If that doesn't work, leave the job. The third possibility is to accept and adapt. So if you can't change the situation and you can't leave the situation, the only healthy third response is accept and adapt, which means change yourself, which means become more patient. It might mean take up martial arts and learn how to fight back. It might mean to learn to build up a very healthy sense of self based on the fact that I have the right values. So in any situation in life, three positive responses: change the situation, leave the situation, or change yourself.
In a recent video, you said a problem with being homosexual is the inability to procreate.
No, I didn't. I said that one of the reasons that the Torah prohibits the homosexual relationship is that the homosexual relationship cannot produce life. It can't be a creator. And we are created b'tselem Elokim, in the image of Hashem, of God, who is a creator. So that relationship doesn't do it.
What about single heterosexuals? They also wouldn't be able to create.
Single heterosexual, that's not their fault. They wanted to be in a relationship. It wasn't given to them.
What about a guy who says, I never want to get married?
So, in fact, Judaism does have an issue with a guy who says, I never want to get married, because we have a mitzvah to get married and to have children of Pru. So it is problematic to not fulfill your essential power of being B'Tselem Elokim. So you do miss out, in a way, on that aspect of what it means to be created in the image of God.
Judith asks, I have recently started keeping Shabbat and kosher. My parents are secular and say I am being disrespectful for refusing to use their kitchen. How should I handle this?
I think that's a sensitive and good question. Judaism teaches two things. Firstly, we should not be reactive. So fighting back and saying to your parents, well, you just don't understand, is not healthy. So what we always do is, number one, validate. Say, you know what, guys, I really hear this. I grew up in your house. You were great to me. I value your values. And I know this is difficult for us as a family. So I just want you to know it's not personal. It's just, this is my belief I have now. I've got nothing against you. And because I love you and you love me, is there any way we can work on making this work? So when I became kosher, for example, I said, look, I want to eat in your home. I want to eat your amazing food that you make me. But I have these personal beliefs now, not judgmental, nothing against you. And my mum just said, okay, so should we go and buy some pots and pans? So a functional, healthy family, although it might be difficult at first, is going to work through these issues because we value the relationship. So you don't have to tell them to kosher their whole kitchen. The key is validating their concern and understanding it and respectfully saying, but you know, these are my beliefs now, but how can we make it work together as a family?
Can I make deals with God?
The truth is, we want our relationship with God to be very pure and innocent and open and accept what he has for us, but be very involved in prayer if we need to. But we do see in the Torah, people made deals with God. Hannah, who hadn't had a baby for a long time, made a deal with God and said, look, if you give me a baby, I'll devote him to your service for many years. So we do see this idea of making deals with God, but I wouldn't try and get overcomplicated and overthinking. We want to serve Hashem with purity and innocence and not start being manipulative. And things like, I'm going to throw this piece of paper and if I get it in the bin, this means that, and we don't do that type of thing.
Then can you ask God to send you a sign?
In general, we don't ask God to send us signs just because we can't really read the signs. You could get a sign and then you interpret it, and this means, oh, well, I threw the piece of paper and it went in the bin. That must mean I have to marry this person. So we don't know how to interpret the signs. So in general, we go to our Rabbeim and our mentors and people we trust and ask them for rational, healthy advice.
Rabbi, you lived in Japan for a while. Did you ever come across the concept of ma?
I actually did. It's the Japanese process of a couple getting together and just sitting in silence in order to synchronize themselves. Now, it's actually used often in therapy when people are getting a bit uptight. I always say this, the first rule in relationships is never, ever, ever put each other down. Don't say anything bad. And there was a couples therapist in America who realized that once someone's heartbeat goes too high, they're not able to communicate in a well way, when they're in a good way. In a well way. They're not able to see my heartbeat so high I can't even speak anymore. So when couples are angry and frustrated and in pain, they start to argue. Why? Because they're not able to communicate. So he actually put a gauge on their hearts, and when their heart rate came too high, he said, "Shit, stop, you can't talk." And he would refuse to let them speak to each other until their heart rates calm down and they could communicate. And that's really the concept of ma. Is to be able to just be quiet and be together. So that's actually to sort out problems. There's a higher concept of ma, which is let's just be together in silence. Many people say, that's an awkward silence. The truth is, when you're with someone you're very close and vulnerable and in love with, then silence isn't awkward. Silence is very, very deep. Sometimes you go on a date with someone and you're just talking all night for 5 hours, 10 hours. It's a beautiful thing. But sometimes you just sit together quietly and watch the sunset together. And the silence of being together is even deeper in a way. Judaism also teaches in the more Kabbalistic ideas that we can start breathing together. So there are two different ways to do that. We either breathe in together and then breathe out together, or one breathes in as the other one breathes out. So we try to link up our breath as part of our maybe physically intimate experience, but we want to bring our breath into that, because the neshima, the breath, is connected to the neshama, and we don't want just our physical bodies to be connected. We want our neshamas to be flowing together. I actually found out that sometimes in this process of couples therapy, they say they should separate and sleep in separate beds for a while. Now we know what that sounds like. That's nida. Because sometimes just a little bit of physical separation makes a space of holiness where we can then go into a deeper place of communication and emotional intimacy, so that when we actually return to physical intimacy, it's on a more respectful and holy and refined and beautiful connected. There's a place in Japan called Moriya-san. Moriya-san really means Mount Moriah. And until I think about 30 to 40 years ago, they had a festival every year where one of the monks took his son and put it on an altar, and they were about to kill the son, and then instead they killed a deer. That's mamish the Akeda. But they stopped doing it. They don't do it. I think they still do it, but not with the deer. They don't want to kill the deer anymore. But they played out the Akeda. There's places where people would pay out. There's a lot of connection between some parts of Japanese culture and Jewish wisdom. I was walking in the mountains and I came across Yamaboshi. Yamaboshi are mountain monks, and they had black circles on their head with a tie around it. And it was a circle, not a square, but it was very similar. The samurai used to wear tzitzit. There are pictures of samurai with tzitzit, and we see all over the East is like that. It says at the end of Parshas Chayei Sarah, the Torah portion of Chayei Sarah, that Abraham sent 6 sons to the east with spiritual wisdom. And we see the main god in Hinduism is called Brahman, and his wife is called Saraswati, which sounds like Abraham and Sarah. The legend is that Brahman created Saraswati with a piece of his own body. That's Adam and Eve. There are very, very many similarities we see. Even Buddha comes from the word lihit boded, which means to be alone. I made that one up, but I think it's cool. To be alone, lit boded, to be alone. That's what Buddha is. And there's many, many, many other things. You can read about all these things in my book, The Enlightened Jewish Master, which if you haven't bought it yet, I think you should buy it. Along with my other book, The Essential Teachings, which will completely change your life. Jew, non-Jew, religious, not Jew. The Essential Teachings is a universal audience. And then my meditation and mindfulness book called Simple, which is actually only available at the moment in Jerusalem. The links to all of it is in below. Buy everything, and my online mindfulness course is life-changing. Actually, you know what? You should come to my classes in the Aish World Center opposite the Kotel. Every day at 11 o'clock, I give a class open to the public about all sorts of amazing, empowering Torah ideas. I'll see you there. That can be found at aish.com/essentials. We're done for today. If you guys could see what I could see, which is Benny and Raquel, who are like my best friend, we're the 3 musketeers. I'm the one in front of the camera. They're the ones behind the camera. They're making this all work. They're the greatest. Like, subscribe, sign up, share with your friends, send in your messages. Love you. Bye.